Written in the early 1970s, which is before when fantasy publishing shifted to making easy money by churning out bargain brand imitations of The Lord of the Rings, The Pastel City by M. John Harrison is an adventure story in the Dying Earth genre. For those unfamiliar, Dying Earth is a type of story set toward the end of the sun's life, featuring crumbling civilizations that live among the ruined splendor of previous eras. It was pushed into popular consciousness by the stories of Jack Vance, which is where the genre got its name. There will be mild spoilers for a 50-some-year-old book, so if you haven't finished The Pastel City, pause this video and read a copy. Viraconium, the titular Pastel City, is the capital of an empire that has rebuilt and prospered, most recently because of the exploits and knowledge of a cadre of men and women who served the dynamic and forward-thinking King Methven Nian. However, he's been dead for about a decade at the start of the novel's action, and contrasting claimants to the throne are on the brink of civil war, threatening to destroy this beacon of stable civilization. Lord Tejas Kramis, a warrior poet who helped King Nian keep Viraconium flourishing, reluctantly quits his self-imposed seclusion to locate the remaining knights and undertake a quest to preserve the Pastel City, even though he is pessimistic about the chances for success. This novel melds the grit of sword and sorcery fantasy to elegiac romanticism. The Japanese would call this mono no aware, but on a large scale. This atmosphere is established, in part, by the central characters, who are mostly men beyond the peak of their ability. They didn't fit well into the decade of peace that they helped create, and now that war has returned, they have waned from their best days. This tone also influences a thematic conflict of the novel, which is cultural vitality. There is a good bit of implicit questioning as to what a healthy civilization looks like, and how does it keep itself from slipping into decadence, despair, or ruin. Viraconium has been peaceful and stable for years, allowing people not just to survive, but also thrive. However, the invasive northern barbarians have a hunger that pushes them to aggressively expand and fight against complacency, and their queen is fueled by personal grievances as well. Differing views on these cultures and the legitimacy of lordship causes a break among the band of old warriors. What the novel strongly suggests is that vitality and life and flourishing are matters of asking questions and facing obstacles. This is the true source of dynamism and progress, and no single civilization has a monopoly on it. Trusting in the alleged certainty of answers is the death of striving, the death of wonder, and ultimately just death. Questions and curiosity give us the propulsion to create, and creation is the only viable instrument against entropy. These ideas feature toward the conclusion of the novel. Kramis, an intelligent and sensitive man, fears the means by which they achieve victory will lead to the end of Viraconium just as surely as if they had lost to the invading forces of Cana Moidart. For him, victory achieved by the use of stolen ancient technologies they don't fully understand is not victory at all, not just on moral grounds but also practical ones. They can all plainly see the devastation caused by the afternoon cultures, so it is madness to follow in their footsteps. The ending, despite the gloom of Cromis, isn't necessarily tragic. What Queen Jane suggests is something akin to synthesis, rather than annihilation or absorption. As is fitting with the themes of the book, however, the need for questions is more important than having answers, so the ending is ambiguous as to the destiny of Viraconium, even as it does gesture toward personal closure for some of the characters. Many stories of the Dying Earth genre put a spotlight on entropy and how later civilizations are built on the wreckage of the previous. More than many such stories, though, the Pastel City can sound like prototype cli-fi, and that the devastation of the Earth was in large part the result of the folly of the afternoon cultures that heedlessly ransacked the planet without much regard for the consequences. This novel, however, isn't sanctimonious about the subject, just deeply sad. Multiple characters express this melancholy at different times throughout the book. The writing style is concise but vivid. Though some elements are not elaborately described, I always had the sense it was the author's choice rather than an oversight or lack of ability, especially because Harrison regularly shows off his writing chops without turning the book into a descriptive slog. It tells a complete story at less than 200 pages, something I wish more fantasy authors could do. Also, it has one of the best battle scenes I've read. If there's a downside, I can see some readers not thinking there is enough characterization, which is a reasonable criticism. Cromis and Tomb the Dwarf are the most fleshed out, but some of the others can come across as thin. However, while the characters can feel a little flat, they don't feel underwritten because they are all distinct and mostly have enough personality to serve the narrative. They have unique silhouettes, so to speak, and there's a lot of information about the characters that is hinted at rather than put as exposition on the page. If you can't tell, I think the Pastel City is wonderful, and I mean that not only in the sense that it is excellent, but also that it is full of wonder. The story and style I enjoyed, finding something on each page that kept me going. I'm definitely inspired to seek out more of Harrison's work. This novel should appeal to people who also enjoy some of these similar works. Obviously, Jack Vance's Dying Earth stories have many similarities, as does the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. The fantasy novel Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames has a similar structure, even if it's solidly high fantasy and is tonally much more comical and frivolous when compared to the Pastel City's mournfulness. This book should also appeal to fans of Hideyuki Kikuchi's Vampire Hunter D series for sharing similarities in setting, aesthetics, and atmosphere. Similarly, Dark Souls and Elden Ring deploy some similar storytelling techniques and themes in a dark fantasy setting. What are your thoughts about the Pastel City? In your estimation, how does it measure up to other books in the Dying Earth genre? Do you wish it had leaned more into the weirdness and melancholy, or instead veered toward the pulpy adventure story qualities? Next in the box of paperbacks will be The Book of Skulls by Robert Silverberg, a science fiction story about 4 young men traveling to the American desert Southwest in search of an immortality cult. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my peculiar notions. If you appreciate this channel and want to support it, you know what to do. You can also take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel of another YouTube creator you enjoy. Until next time, read some good books, live, and be well.